Today I wanted to bring up and introduce to you someone you haven't met before, but you know her parents. Kayla George is with us, and her parents, go ahead and come up everybody. Kevin and Lavelle. And Kevin and Lavelle, as you may or may not know, for those of you who are new, we're a little squeezed up here tonight. We're going to try to fit everyone. Kevin and Lavelle, along with John and Sandy, Sierra, if you guys would wave, the four of them provide individual and couple counseling just as a means to mentor budding relationships here at church. We love that. But just to bounce ideas off of and just have people to talk to. You know, Pastor Bobby's booked out until 2015, and he needed a little help, so he called in the experts, and they're here to help us. But they've been, they serve in many capacities here at church, and their daughter has an exciting adventure to share with us. So without further ado, I will join and ask a few questions. Welcome. Well, this is Kayla, as I mentioned before, and so, you know, I haven't even heard firsthand. I get to hear from your sister, and I read everybody's posts on Facebook, and I gather that you have a trip coming up. So I want to find out I guess first of all, what's even prompted you to make a decision to become a missionary?
Well, I guess it all started back in 2009. I was a sophomore at Vanguard University, and I was getting my bachelor's in psychology and minor in religion, and it was just a normal church service, and I heard God directly say to me that he had called me to the ends of the earth, and that my place wasn't at home. But at that time, I didn't tell anyone for another 2 years, just because I was too afraid of what that life would look like, and being so young at the time and everything. And another issue was I didn't want to go alone. And so I was like, you know, after another year or so, I knew that's what I was supposed to do. And I remember telling God, like, well, if you want me to go, then you're going to have to, like, provide me a husband, and then we'll do it together. But then it came, I graduated from Vanguard. I started grad school because I didn't really know what to do, what I was going to do with being a missionary. Still hadn't told anyone. And last November, I told my life group girls and everything. And then I was in grad school, and I just had a really tough week. Didn't know what was going on in my life. Just didn't feel right. And I actually had the opportunity to hear Joyce Meyer speak, and she, one thing that stuck out to me, I know it was meant for me, she said, if you're so unhappy, ask God why. And that was the only word that I could describe the way I was feeling. So I asked God why I was unhappy, and he said, you're not listening to me. And I said, what are you telling me? And he said, I'm telling you to go. And that was in February. So I withdrew from grad school and started making plans to go.
Yes. So God was very clear about going. Do you know where you're going?
For the initial 6 months, I'm going to Thailand. So on January 3rd, I actually leave for Bangkok, and I'll be there doing a discipleship program and language school for a bit, and then we'll have 3 months of ministry opportunity, either in Thailand or a nearby country. Oh yeah, and then actually because I'm actually going to a Children at Risk program that's working on prevention, rescue, and restoration of children in sex trafficking and victims. And I came to that point where I knew that was what my heart was drawn to. And I actually had a dream back in 2009. And in that dream, I had come to know some girls that were living in a brothel. And one day that I was there, one of the girls looked at me and said, I'm ready to go. And so I told her, let's go, and we began going room to room, collecting all the girls that were in that brothel. And in that dream, like, the brothel was in a village that was built on stilts above water, and canoe-like boats, and it's Thailand. Like, that's where I'm going. So it all came together.
So, big news. Who did you tell first?
My life group girls are the first girls that I told in November 2011. I didn't tell anyone for 2 years, and I think it was out of fear mostly, just because I didn't know how I was going to do it or when I was going to go, and I felt like if I didn't tell anyone, I wouldn't be held accountable to people, because no one would know that I wasn't doing what I was supposed to be doing, but God would. So he spoke clearly, and so that's what I needed, obviously, to get me to go.
Well, I'm going to shift focus here for a second. Your parents are waiting back here to tell their side of the story. So your baby comes home and sits you down and says, guess what? I'm leaving the country. What was your first reaction?
Shock. That was I think our first reaction, and I have to say I wasn't really surprised, just because I always knew God had a calling on her life. But I'll tell you, when she was little, her older sister was going to be the missionary, and she was like, "Oh no, I'm staying home. I'll make the money and send my sister." But anyway, so despite that, I knew God had a call in her life, but we were kind of surprised. I think that we were surprised that she was actually pursuing it like now. I was thinking, okay, then after she gets done with grad school, then we'll, but she felt God calling her now. So I think that was the biggest surprise.
She took us out. Well, she didn't take us out. We all met at Paradise Bakery. She had something to tell us. And so it was Candace and Kayla. Candace knew, and all the life girls knew, the life group girls, but we didn't know anything. And so she started telling us all this, and I think I was surprised at the clarity. You think your children are still your children. And she may look young, but she's going to be 24. And she had such a clarity and maturity that it was obvious it was God.
Now, I'm just going to remind everyone else, you guys are former missionaries yourselves, and so now being on this other side, you guys were the adventurous ones and left your families and packed up your kids and went to the edge of the earth. Now, as parents, what are some concerns or worries that have come up for you?
I think the number one worry is that she's going alone. Because when we went, we had each other. So when we were young, we were married. Candace was actually about 3 or 4 months old when we left for South Africa, and we were there for about 2 years. But we had each other. And so whether you're going through immigration or customs or whatever and you're stressed out, you always have somebody else that you feel like, okay, we're doing this together. She's already made it clear that she doesn't want one of us to go with her when she makes the trip. When she makes that first journey, she really feels like she has to do this alone, that this is God's call in her life and she's to do it alone instead of us to hold her hand and take her. And it's not just a 6-month trip either. This is a missionary call. And so I think the toughest thing for me is to know that she will be alone. The flip side is, when it comes to safety, I know that the safest place you can be is fulfilling the purpose that God has in your life. So I don't worry about her safety. I'm excited. I'm really excited. I'm living vicariously through her. But I think it's the being alone that kind of affects me.
I think so. And then as a mom, you always, how do I put this? In the spirit, I know that God has his hand on her and that she's in the safest place because she's in his arms. But on the fleshly side, of course, all those things come to mind. Oh, what if this happens? What if that happens? And I just have to remind myself, God loves her even more than I do. And he's got her best interest at heart. And so I just have to keep focusing on that.
Well, I admire all of your bravery. I know that it's a challenge on every front. When I was in Africa, there was an American missionary there, and he was talking about telling his family that he was moving away, maybe never to come back, and he was explaining to them, you can't do a cost benefits analysis with God. He will always out benefit whatever cost is involved. So you're going. Tell us again the date, and then what exactly you'll be doing. I know maybe you don't know entirely. I know things change very frequently, but your plan and who you're going with.
So I leave for Thailand on January 3rd, and I'll be going with YWAM. But in the process, I know that this is something that I'm called to be a missionary, and it's not just like a 6-month don't know what to do, so I'll go to YWAM. So I actually founded a nonprofit corporation in Scottsdale, Arizona, and it's called Lionheart 117, and it exists to prevent, rescue, restore children and families at risk, and will provide services that empower and strengthen orphan, vulnerable children families. So that you can find us on Facebook or go to the website lionheart117.com. That came about, like Lionheart is from the life of David, and it just like going through David's life and understanding. We know that David had a tender and intimate heart towards relationship with God and toward his people, but he still had and maintained that lion heart for the injustices against his people, and that's something that I want to maintain in my own life. I never want to get too comfortable to be okay with things, the injustice against God's children. And then 117 comes from Isaiah 117, which says, learn to do good, seek justice. It's care for the orphans and stand up for the widows and like something about oppressed. I still have to get it down. But so yeah, that's where the name comes from.
So how can we be praying for you?
Prayer obviously for safety, and then just like divine appointments to meet and like meet the people I need to meet, for there to be like an open communication with people that we're ministering to, that I'll be ministering to. I think that's it. Finances. I'm in my process of raising my funds for January, and I actually had an event last night that was successful, and it was just exciting to see all that God was providing for me. And I know that in the months to come that I'm in the purpose of God, and He provides for His purposes. So.
Well, Kayla, I'm just so proud of you and excited for you, and just appreciate you stepping out in faith. And there's no doubt in my mind that God's gonna move you right in the direction that He's called you to since the beginning of time. And Mom and Dad, thank you for letting her go. We appreciate that. So thanks for sharing with us. Again, check it out. Be sure to, if you would, help her, go to lionheart117.com and like it on Facebook. For those of you who don't know, when you do activity on Facebook, it helps raise awareness, so it'll flash up on people's news feeds more. So anytime you're wanting to support an organization or person that you're really excited about, the more activity you have going and tagging them in different social media, it helps really boost them. So even when you can't give a lot of money, you can give some social media support. So, thank you.